Welcome to the Ready Room Podcast. My name's Josh, and today we have a very special guest, Mark Smith from JBS Training Group.
Hello.
Today we're going to be answering the question, do you need training? We hope you enjoy. All right, Mark, welcome to this little den
Thank you, sir.
of sad dreams. Would you mind introducing yourself
No,
and
sure.
JBS Training Group?
Yeah. So Mark Smith with JBS Training Group. I started this company about 2 years ago, just basically based off of a hunch that there was a niche in the community that was, there was lots of training available, but the majority of it was geared towards the tactical side of the house. Military dudes, law enforcement dudes, dynamic room entry stuff. And that didn't necessarily appeal to me as a normal guy, right? So I'm just a normal dude. So what I set out to do was create a kind of a culture. It's been really neat how it's grown, man. Where, I had this question of, does anybody want to just learn how to get better at shooting with no tactical strings attached? Like, let's just make it shooting and let that be it.
Yeah.
And then let's see how that applies to whatever, your level of participation in this field is. And it's worked out really good, man. So, been running that for 2 years, been all over the country, had some fantastic opportunities. I've been very fortunate, to be in front of some very high level people, some people that I definitely believe are the greatest men that I've ever met. I've had an outstanding start so far. And absolutely thank God for that. I truly believe that his hand has led me to where I'm at. And, a lot of this is, I ain't real sure where we're going, man. I'm just going. So
just riding it out, man.
Yep.
I like
awesome.
it. So JBS Training Group, you say you're traveling around the country offering training courses.
Yeah.
Right? I took, with Travis, who was our last guest on the podcast, me and him took a rifle spin-up course, right? That's what it was called.
Yeah.
And it was a really awesome course, and I really planned on getting into some more classes with y'all. And I noticed you're now doing 2-day courses.
Yeah, man. So the thing about the spin-ups was there were a lot of people that wanted to come out, but they weren't sure how high level the 2-day stuff was, and they were like, I don't know, maybe I just want to get my feet wet kind of thing, not necessarily new gun owners, but just I bought a rifle, I shoot a little bit here and there. I bought a pistol, I shoot a little bit, but I've never actually had any professional training, so I'm not real sure if I want to jump full-fledged into this. And so the spin-up was kind of designed as, okay, so you got a gun, you know how to work it safely, you know how to do the basic things to it. What does it look like to spin you up into what I see is performance-based shooting. And so that was kind of what that was all about. Those have kind of gone away just due to my time, and they also went away due to the fact that I have not been able to figure out a way other than charging a price that I think is over what I would believe the value of the course would be. I haven't figured out a way to do 1-day courses and travel and make it economical. It's just, and that goes for the student too, right? I mean, most people, if they're going to take a day off or take a day to do this, they want to go ahead and let's just do the whole weekend. So the 2-day stuff also gives me the time to really cover way more, which I think is important. I don't like to leave people hanging with, we touched on part of this, but we never finished it. I don't like doing that, so it gives me an opportunity to do that. And we got a lot of 3 days that we've been doing with Bill Blowers from Tap Rack Tactical, and great dude, one of my best friends, and then Nick Young, also a good friend of mine who runs Velox Training Group out of North Carolina. So 3 days with those, and that's been really cool too, in that you get 2 separate points of view, 2 separate ideas on what this, because everybody's, making meatloaf, man. Everybody's making meatloaf. Some people are using different ingredients. That's the only difference. And so I'm a big believer in a person learns when you say the right thing to the right person at the right time. And I'm not that guy all the time, right? But I try to be. But here's what's cool. I can bring this other dude in. We can do a 3-day course, and he might say something to you a little different than I do, and it might resonate with you a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
No, I like it, man. I like the idea of, trying to help people be a little more efficient in what they do, but make it still work for them, Like you said about other 1-day courses where you're traveling. One of the biggest issues I always had, because I definitely wanted to get into more training once I got out of the Army. I was like, man, I need more. I want more, And as I looked around these 1-day courses, even if I traveled to, like, let's say Georgia, North Carolina, dude, they were charging like $800 to $1,200 for these courses for 1 day, and I was like, I just can't justify it. Or they were having like so many students that no one's really getting good one-on-one instruction. So I really like what you're doing. I think the weekend course is a good idea. I think it's smart, but I think we should definitely cover why should the average gun owner, right, who they got into firearms to defend their family, and they think that's all they really need them for. They're not really doing anything more than that. Maybe they carry, maybe they don't. Maybe they're a nightstand gun kind of guy. Mm-hmm. Why should they invest in some proper and real training?
So, the gravity of this grows the more we start talking about defense of human life. If you're just a competitive shooter, if you're just a range guy that just hits the range every now and then, and you don't carry defensively or whatever, then maybe you don't need to understand everything you need to know about how to hit what you're aiming at, right? Because if you miss, there's no real consequence.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that people fail to realize is that shooting is, I absolutely believe it to be a martial art. It never ends. You never get good enough. There's no such thing. And we know through data that on the worst day of your life, you absolutely want to be able to make what we call a no-fail shot. What does it look like if the scenario presents itself where failure is not an option?
Yeah,
it's not. And I think a lot of people have these fantasies that they make up of how that day is going to go, and I have found in the shoot house and in people under pressure on the flat range even. It oftentimes does not go, if ever, the way that you intended for it to go. And good enough is only good enough until it ain't.
Yep.
And I'm trying to push people to cover a more blanket approach to I can do almost anything you can put in front of me. I can perform. Because the other side of it is a bad day.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest benefits of training that I think most people don't really think about when they're going to these, especially if they're going there for the first time, until maybe it's already done, is how humbling the training class can be. Because you're having to watch yourself work on, let's say, a drill, right? And you think, oh, this sounds like an easy drill. And then you just suck real bad on that drill. And you're like, I really was sure I could do that. But then these drills and these classes present to you all your faults, flaws, and areas you need to work on in real time. And I think it's just eye-opening. It tells you, okay, I'm not as good as I thought I was. And now that we start adding stress with a timer, which is a big benefit as well, I know that I'm not working as well under stress as I thought I was. And I think that's something people need to realize is like you could do whatever you want. You could dry fire all day, and you could, like you said, think of if this would have happened, this is what I would do. Mm-hmm. But until that adrenaline hits, you got no idea.
Well, and the world will never present you the plan that you have. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And that's a beautiful representation of how it goes inside of, the shoot house when we actually do force on force and opposing force things. People find out real quick how beautiful it is to be so good at shooting that you can now not have to think about the shooting. I can think about other things, so there's another benefit for it. And I think for most people, man, that have never taken a training class, they're under the impression that they're going to an organized practice session.
Yeah.
And that why can't I just do that on my own? Why can't I just go train on my own? Why not go to the range and just practice something? And I think the misconception there is that this is not a practice session. This is a learning session, right? And so I really do believe that the majority of people that possess firearms do not understand how deep this hole is, like how much there is to learn, how much there is to gain, and how much there is to just think about, man. Like I think about this stuff all the time. Like I sit in the car at red lights and think about transitions on people's taillights. And just thinking about how can I see. I mean, it's so deep, and I think a lot of people are like me, man. I used to think, and I say this all the time, I used to think that I was squared away because I could hit all the beer cans on Thanksgiving Day and nobody else in the family could.
Exactly.
So therefore, what do I need shooting for? What do I need training for? And I went down to a training class because the internet said I should, right? Everybody says I should go get training. Guess I'll go get training. So I did. And I saw people doing things with pistols that looked like magic tricks to me.
Yep.
It was absolutely amazing what they could do. And I realized at that point I was way behind the power curve. And so the option for me, you know, I got an addictive personality, man. I don't like to suck at anything.
Yeah.
And when I grab hold of something, I don't let it go until I'm done. I don't do anything that I suck at because I don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right. So like I live on a lake and I don't fish that much because I ain't no good at it. You know what I mean? I ain't got time to get good at it.
Yeah, me either.
And so the option I had at that point was, okay, so either don't shoot no more or get better at it. Well, I had a baby on the way. I just gotten married, and so I knew I was going to carry a gun defensively, and that class opened my eyes to how unready I actually was, because the readiness that I perceived was only applicable in the fantasies that I had created. You know what I mean? So
Yep, and I think like you said about the pistols, you know, what they were doing with like magic tricks, it's exactly how I felt coming out of my childhood, my early years, my Army time. Like, you know, pistols were never really the big thing down here. It was always rifles, like you said, shooting beer cans. And then I come out here and I'm trying to find a gun that I want to carry, and I suck with every handgun that I bought. I went through probably 10 handguns in 2015.
Just got to buy the right one, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, I really thought, I hate this grip. I don't like this. This thing's sights suck. And then I was like, dude, this is not right. So I said, I realized what I'd done wrong. I was like, okay, clearly I suck. It's not the guns. Because
you know what's cool? MDFI, I just got back from a shoot house course with MDFI out of Michigan. Trek, really good buddy of mine, runs that. And he's got a course curriculum that's called "You Suck, It's Not the Gun."
It's true,
and
though.
it's a whole day on just sights and triggers. It's fantastic.
It's so true, man. But I spent 3 years. I bought a USP 45 compact, or 9mm compact, sorry, to conceal carry, brand new, his first new handgun I ever bought. And I spent 3 years learning how to shoot handguns properly. And I'm still not fast, but I don't suck as bad as I used to. And it's something that you see people starting to the way they control recoil with a lot of these handguns, using their body mechanics to their favor. This is stuff that can be learned and incorporated. And if you don't realize that, you're going to be doing this the entire time.
A lot of people just don't know what they don't know, man.
Exactly.
They don't know what's possible. I really do believe that. They don't know what's possible because, you know, everybody within their little group that they shoot with, if they shoot with anyone, probably looks like they do.
Yeah.
You know, there are very few people that I know of that are extremely high-level shooters that hang out and go to the range with extremely low-level shooters, right? So you normally see the high-level shooters go to the range together, the low-level shooters go to the range together. And so unless you reach outside of those walls, you'll never know any better.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. And it's like complacency bias. And I brought that up to Travis as well. It's like people don't know what they don't know. And until they see it, you know, that they're not going to know. And sometimes they even see it and go, well, that guy's just a freak of nature. You know, it's like, no, that guy's put work in. That guy's put time in. He's put the effort in. He's focused on this thing that you could also be doing. But if you don't want to, that's, you know. Well, I'm not trying to tell people, by the way, that you have to go become the new John Wick. It's just that there is a whole, I'm going to say a rabbit hole is probably a pretty fair way of putting it. There's a whole rabbit hole world of getting better at shooting, getting better at your mentality and your body mechanics and all this stuff that you could be working on that will improve you as a defensive shooter. As I think it branches into more than just shooting. I think it helps your life in general in a really positive way. But if you don't, I don't know. It scares me to think about not preparing.
Well, that's the other thing too. That you know, man, if you're one of these dudes that's looking for friends, man, I can't recommend the people in this industry higher. I mean, these are the best people I've ever met. You know, and it becomes more of a pastime to like, hey, let's get together with some buddies and go take a training course. You know, so and so national level instructors coming through town. Yeah. Let's go do this. This will be an awesome weekend. You know, and it is. And you know, it really is just. I think until you actually get a good training class, and I think there's another problem, right? We've got so many local level people that are maybe decent shooters, you know, above average, but that doesn't make you a good teacher.
Yep.
And so, you know, I personally have experienced the highest level training classes, like from the top dudes all the way from dudes, you know, Delta dudes to, you know, the 25-year SWAT cop to you know, everybody, and dude, they just and keep in mind, I'm not saying that all of them suck. I'm just saying I have been to some that just sucked because the dude was really good at what he did for a living, but what he did for a living was not teaching me how to do it.
Yeah.
And so, being a teacher and understanding how to convey information is a big one too. And I think a lot of people end up going to, the local level 4-hour classes and things like that, where the teacher is not too much of a teacher. It's just, you're doing it wrong. Try again. Oh yeah, oh no, let's try again. Or my favorite one is just slow down. Just slow down.
Yeah.
And well, that doesn't tell me a job to do,
No.
right? That just tells me to fail slower.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's a pretty big problem.
And so I was going to ask, what are some misconceptions you think people see about training classes? But one of the biggest ones I have is, man, you try to tell someone to go take some classes, and let's say you're not going to be in their area for a while, or some other really good big instructor's not going to be in their area for a while. So they start looking at the local level, and they just find NRA certified guy after NRA certified guy who's just clearly not qualified to be teaching these classes. And then they go to these, maybe they have a bad experience and think, well, why would you tell me to get training? Or they just think they're all like that. And it's just, it's sad and it's scary. And in a lot of cases, it's genuinely scary, these instructors.
Yeah. There are very few out of the many that I would consider the top of their class, man, top of their level. And if we go off of accolades alone, we can kind of end up with a disappointing result sometimes. There was a really great story that Billy B told me, Bill Blowers, and Bill's just fantastic at. Bill speaks in parables very much like Jesus used to, right? And that's the most beautiful way to convey someone an idea. And he does such a great job at it because he's got just so much experience from like the small local level police departments to the big giant ones and everything in between, all these SWAT call outs. He's just got so much experience watching different people do different things that it gives him these awesome stories. And one of them was there was a guy that worked at his department that he was at this particular time, and he was a cop's cop. You know what I mean? Like he was all policeman. He wanted to fight crime. That's all he wanted to do. He wanted to be on the road. They tried to promote him to a certain title that was going to put him at a desk job. He declined it because he wanted to stay on the road. Took a pay cut. And all. I mean, he was absolutely wanted to go hands on. And be that guy. And he had been in, I think it was 6. Actual gunfights, like not officer involved shootings, like gunfights, like bullets going both ways, and he had won all 6 of them. And so, by all internet accounts, right, this should be the man to go see, right? You want to learn how to save your life. This is the man. He's been in it, But what you don't know about that same gentleman is that he also, indeed, in the police station 4 times. So. This is not the man that you want to learn weapon manipulation from, but you don't understand that's kind of a dichotomy that works against us. And, understand that participation does not always equal proficiency.
Yes.
Right. I want to go to the guy that is the top of his level, that can speak to me in a way that I can understand what he's saying. That's the biggest thing, man. And I think the more I do this, the more I realize how many people are out there that have all of this knowledge and all this wisdom inside of them, but they can't get it out to me.
Yeah.
That's the biggest
They have no efficient way to get it across to you.
And the fact that we've got, not taking anything away from the NRA certs. Well, I guess I kind of am. I'm not all that impressed if that's all you got,
Nope.
because I know what it takes to get that. And in no way, shape, or form does that, to me, mean that you can teach me anything. No. All that simply means is that you went through this day-long course and didn't point a gun at the instructors, basically. What
and
that
it's
is.
Incestuous, honestly. The NRA certs they breed other NRA certs, which is just, there's no experience there. I don't know. I got a big issue with the NRA in general.
Yeah.
They don't do enough.
I agree.
And when I got out of the Army, I tried to just get an RSO. I was going to school for gunsmithing, and I just wanted to get a big old fat resume full of stuff.
Yeah.
So the first thing I started with was, I hate the NRA, but I'll go to the NRA for RSO cert.
Yeah.
8-day course or 8-hour course, nothing crazy. Don't get me wrong, it was all clear knowledge because I just came fresh out of the infantry. We're strict on our range, so RSO is pretty simple. And then finish it up, go to submit it, try to get myself my certification according to the NRA. And they just ignore me for 6 months. They wouldn't return my phone calls, let me create an account. I paid all this money. I gave up. NRA is pretty crappy, guys. I'm sorry. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, shout out Firearms Policy Coalition and Gun Owners of America. If you want to give some money to some people that are actually going up there and putting boot behind in, that's your boys.
GOA puts in work, and what was you said Firearms Policy Coalition?
Yeah.
Yes, they're doing a lot of lawsuits too.
FPC.
For sure. Those guys I would give my money to.
Absolutely.
I would not give it to the NRA. So, any other misconceptions you want to cover before we move on?
Well, I guess there's this misconception of I have a gun, therefore I am armed. Mm-hmm. And I guess by legal technicality, that is a true statement. Mm-hmm. However, you really need to understand, man, like I keep going back to MDFI. MDFI's training curriculum for the citizen, the responsibly armed citizen, is absolutely fantastic. What he's done is he's taken the same approach I did, where like who's teaching the normal dudes, And man, he's got everything from the basic foundational shooting fundamental courses all the way up to use of force, to intermediate weapons, to he's got one called "When a Gun Is Not an Option," for the places where you can't have a firearm, or either the firearm's not necessarily the answer. Yeah. Because not everybody needs to have a gun pointed at them.
Yes.
So and there's all this stuff where we find that just because I have a gun actually can oftentimes do me more harm than if I didn't, because of people's perceptions on, just things that are basic, man, like use of force law.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal to me how many people believe that you can shoot another human being because they put their hands on you.
Yeah.
And things like that people don't understand. And, so I think that if you're going to carry a gun defensively, there's a couple things you need to have. One of them is a total knowledge of the use of force laws in the state that you are in, because that changes when you cross state lines, right? So anytime I go somewhere and travel, I have to kind of read up on what do they allow. Mm-hmm. And then the other side of it is, the willingness part of it is huge. Are you willing to do what you are saying you will do? Because we have time and time again seen men that have signed the line saying they will do what the job requires, that fail.
Yes.
And I always felt like how much more awesome would it be if we could just get really, really good at shooting and eliminate that from the RAM that's running the processing, and let's have one less thing to be trying to think about,
Yeah.
So that's the whole basis of it, man.
And I think that's, so one thing I have an issue with is a lot of people think it's just for military or people wanting to compete in competition. Mm-hmm. And it's like, in fact, I think like those dudes they're getting covered on their own for their job on a lot of times. They're getting training paid for, yes. But your training is, like you said, is like a lot of these guys are doing at the local level for the individual, civilian. And I think that's more important when you're thinking about it as a gun owner who's just listening to this. And you're like, I don't know, why do I need it? And this is why. It's your mindset, your applicable skills towards defensive life protection. But you're right on use of force. People need to learn their state laws. And that's the same thing with carrying laws, where you can carry, where you can and can't carry. Definitely learn up on that stuff. But I think a really, really interesting part is when people say, like you said, people don't do what they think they would do in that situation.
Never.
Yeah. And this is why I tell people to stop. I know a lot of people who say they just carry a knife for self-defense as opposed to a gun. And it's like, that's a lot more personal. Mm-hmm. Let's say you are lucky enough to be attacked with someone who doesn't have a much more violent or deadly weapon than your knife. That's a lot more personal. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to do some pretty serious things to come out of that on top.
Yep.
I think you should carry the gun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
knife fighting is not in my closet of options most of the time, man. I like you ever actually seen a knife fight?
Yes.
Like, it is disgusting.
Everyone's getting cut.
It is nasty.
Yes, everyone's getting cut.
And then good luck explaining to the little old lady on the jury why you needed to leave that man covered in blood on the curb over there when he was trying to take your money with a ball bat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, she's not going to understand that.
She's going to think you're depraved and you went overboard.
This man is a savage that needs to be locked away.
Yeah, that is not something that I recommend, guys.
Yeah.
You don't want anything that's going to force you to get even closer. You want space, you want separation, that kind of fun stuff. That's I carry a knife for a tool.
Yeah,
and if
I've got one. Yeah.
If I had to, I would do it, but it's not my go-to.
Yeah, dude, I've got a tomahawk in my truck. You know what I mean? And but it ain't my main plan to be busting that thing out, right? No. That thing is for the very small chance that I get to use it in a very small series of events.
Yes.
Not a immediate plan.
I've got a kukri underneath one of my seats.
Yeah.
I like kukris. I wanted to make a nice tomahawk sometime if I ever dipped my toes into blacksmithing.
I'll show you mine when we get out of here, man. What's his name? Well, Winkler knives.
Yeah.
I got a Winkler.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So let's say you decided to take JBS Training Group's classes, or anyone else that's really solid in your area at the time. Mark, what would you say are some really, like, the most common, let's say, weapon manipulations, movements, or drills that the average shooter seems to struggle with the most?
Hitting what they're aiming at great distances. There's something about, so it's really interesting. It's fascinating to me. I think oftentimes the distance is something that plays on the mind. I see it all the time. We'll see it this weekend with my upcoming class in Texas, where these men can put extremely accurately placed shots on something at 5 yards away over and over and over again. But when I push them back to 50, there's something that happens with the mind that becomes this intimidation thing, right? And they begin to visualize this failure that's about to happen. And it's just, it intimidates them.
Yeah.
And my job is to try to help them understand that your perception of time, space, and reality is unreliable when we're actually in what we call the zone, or I call it blaze mode. Steve Anderson calls it match mode. It's where you're either thinking of nothing or you're thinking of only one thing, and that one thing is the conscious mind's occupation that it must be performing, because we can only think about one thing at a time. So I can't necessarily choose to not think, but I can choose what I think about. So I teach how to kind of hack the brain and occupy it so that it doesn't say, oh, I can't, or oh, this is scary, or oh, this is, give yourself one job to do and let that be it. And then the beauty of that is even and there's way more to it than what I'm talking about right now, but in this zone that I'm speaking of, if you can adequately flip that switch on and off on demand, the beauty of it is even if you're a C-level shooter in USPSA, right?
Yeah.
You will absolutely get your current level of skill on demand every time, even if that's C-level shooting, right? Because even C-level shooters have dumpster fire runs, right? They have runs through the match where they're like, oh my gosh, that was just terrible. I know I can do better than that. The beauty of my process of being able to hack the brain is that if you are a C-level shooter, then that's what you're going to get over and over and over until you work to get to the B-level side of the house, But, shooting things that are tiny, far away, man, drives people nuts. Understanding, people oftentimes, I think, don't understand that hitting the target is actually really easy. Like it's so you ready for the magic sauce? Here it comes, right? This is what people pay for worldwide. You have to align the sights to see what you need to see for the appropriate target, right? Time, distance, opportunity plays into this, but align the sights and pull the trigger without moving the sights. That's it, right? That's the magic trick. The problem is the brain. You ever take a kid out or a new shooter and somebody's never fired a pistol before, and you set up, say, a B8 at 10 yards away? I actually did this with my 9-year-old. And you tell them, okay, so you're gonna set the sights up like this, equal height, equal light, all those cliche terms, and then you're just gonna pull the trigger nice and smoothly and without disturbing the sights. Right, the first shot, every single time I've seen this, the first shot is an X-ring bullseye every time, and then at that moment, their battle with the flinchies begins for the rest of their life, because now the brain there's a neural pathway been created where the brain knows when I feel this much pressure against the tip of my finger, this thing's going to explode in my hand in front of my face, and I don't like it. Yeah. And now we got to work through that.
And you have to build. I mean, God, that's a lot of work. Trying to teach, even if it's just yourself or somebody else, to not flinch ahead of time. You can flinch after all you want.
There's really neat ways to hack it and override it, so to speak. And then after that, so now you can pull the trigger without moving the sights. Now, how fast can you do that over and over and over again? And then starting to understand that not every target needs the same kind of care taken, right?
Yeah.
So I always talk about targets being the loan sharks, and triggers are the currency, right? I only pay what is owed, nothing more. So I'm only going to give that target the trigger control that it requires and nothing else, because anything over and above is just slow. slow is smooth, smooth is slow is fast or something. But at the end of the day, man, slow is slow.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. Well, I know it's not a belief. It's not a faith thing. It's an actual fact. There are people that can prove it to you. You can absolutely shoot really tiny things extremely quickly.
Yes.
And it has nothing to do with how slow you go. It has to do with how much attention you're paying to what needs attention paid. And that's, here we go down this rabbit hole of, this martial art that's just, it's almost like you can just sit around and philosophize about this stuff.
For sure.
I mean, it's a big, big thing that a lot of people don't understand, because I think for most people, they've never actually experienced or seen or witnessed extremely high level shooting in person, not on the internet, like in person. When you watch a man do a turn and draw L-Pres, right? 6 reload 6 on 3 different targets in 3.5 seconds. Wow. It is something to behold.
That's fast.
Right? And you start to think, man, like, let me go home and try that. And then the best you can do is like 15 seconds, and you realize I am 12.5 seconds slower, or 12 seconds slower than this man. Like that is he could have done 4 more of those by the time I finish one. And you realize I got work to do. That's that moment I was talking about, where it's either I'm not going to carry a gun defensively because I suck at it, or I'm going to get better.
Yep. Like I said, that's the humbling part, man. It's really important. I mean, for me, my example, when I went to your class, one of the things I really struggle with was I can hit accurately, and I can stretch out and hit accurately, but my issue was adding the speed. It was mostly a mental thing. And one thing that he said that cracked me up during that class was he would just walk up to people and say, "Go faster next time," and they would go faster.
It's amazing.
And it's crazy, right? Because I would think if I had not gone to that class, the exact opposite would happen. They would go faster but miss more. Yep. That would be my guess, because you're just forcing it, right? Because I'm used to saying slow is smooth, smooth is fast, because the military beats it into your brain, But it really does work when there's some pressure and there's someone telling you just go faster.
Well, the thing is I think oftentimes people train the wrong way. It's very akin to the way a lot of people approach the gym, right? And I use the gym as an analogy a lot, because I think a lot of things are paralleled in that. So people go to the shooting range the way someone goes to the gym. They go once every 2 weeks. They do 20 push-ups, right, every 2 weeks. And then 6 months later, they put 400 pounds on the bench and try to lift it, and then they get all pissed off and upset, and they can't figure out why they can't do this. And if anybody treated that that way in the gym, we'd say, man, that's absolutely asinine. That's foolish.
That's not a
But that's exactly how we do the shooting range, right? We go with zero plan. We have no real idea what we're doing. We're just in there just picking up weights, man. I have no idea what perfect technique is. I have no idea what perfect form is. I have no idea, what I'm doing. I'm just in here doing, right? And then we're like, man, this really ain't working. And then what do? We cancel that membership.
We give up.
So it's
But you're right. I mean, that's exactly what it sounds like when someone goes to the range once a month and shoots a paper target in an indoor range at 7 yards, and then enters a competition.
Yeah,
and doesn't know why they're not. There's a big difference in that training, like you said. You need a plan, the mentality,
and the other. You're talking about big misconceptions. Another one. I steal this from John McPhee. People are under the impression that I just need more rounds downrange, right? I just need to shoot 10,000 rounds, and then that 10,000 first one, I'm just going to be great all of a sudden. And that is very similar to teaching a child to just throw numbers together, and eventually you'll get the correct sum. Just 2 + 3 is 4. Nope, that ain't right. Try it again. Right, and eventually they'll just land on it and understand it. That's again, that's absolutely asinine, and we would never do that. But yet that's how we go to the range. We don't approach it very methodically, and I think a lot of the times it's because we don't know what to do. And here comes another plug for getting some training, man. And I'm not saying, I'm also not a proponent of going to 15 training classes a year for 10 years. I don't think you need that. I think that you need a couple of dudes from each side of the house, right? The tactics side, where they're thinking about, shooting bad guys. The performance side, where they're mainly into the competing world and things like that. And then the citizen defensive side. And once you've gone to 3, 4, 5 courses like that, I think if you do your part, you have about 90% of the knowledge you'll ever need to actually get better.
Good foundation and things you can work on your own.
Yeah. You don't just the same way you don't need to shoot 10,000 rounds to be better. You don't need to go to 10,000 classes either.
Yeah.
Now that being said, I'm not saying you shouldn't. If that's your thing, I know a lot of dudes. This is a hobby for them. You know what I mean? And it's just like dudes go to the golf range. Some people go to classes, man, and that's cool. That's great. There's no detriment to that. Once again, looking for a guy to say the right thing to the right person at the right time, man, it requires the more you go to training, the more chances you have of somebody doing that for you.
Yep.
So there's that, but the misconceptions, man, they abound, right? It could go on forever and ever, but the main one is that I have a gun, therefore I'm armed.
Yeah, that's a really important one.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. This is something you said a lot earlier, but I want to touch on it real quickly for people who are worried about going to a training course because they're worried that they'll be made fun of or they will be judged because they're not good at this thing. And I know guys like that who they feel like if I go, I'm going to get called out. And it's like, no, these guys, I've never met someone at a real good class. I've been to only a couple, but I've been in the gun world my entire life. These dudes are encouraging. I mean, because they want to see you do better. Now, your friends from high school who shoot guns at the range, that's not what I mean. I mean the gun world, the firearms industry and its companies, let's say.
So there's another huge misconception, right? And it pertains to competition shooting and training classes. Most people that have been to neither make the assumption that everyone at the training class and everyone at the competition is going to be better than I am.
Yeah.
And then they find that is actually nothing could be further from the truth, right?
Yep.
I have never once been to a competition or a training class, even when I was just starting out, where I was the worst guy there.
Yep.
And I really thought I was going to be.
Yeah.
So man, jump out there, dude. Like I say, these are the best men in the world. They're if they're anything like me, they're passion truly is watching you get it, like watching you get better. Like that is what I live for. That is like your performance is absolutely all I think about. Like I'm constantly trying to think about how I can say things different, how I can do things different. Because man, when that light bulb goes off and you finally get it, it's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, I mean, get out there, man. Get your feet wet and reach a little bit, right? Don't just say, okay, well, I'm gonna start with this intro to pistol class at my local range, right? Don't be afraid of the higher level, national level dudes, man.
Yeah.
That's where the best value for the dollar is most of the time.
Yeah.
Spend 2 days with the guy that does it the best, and you'll, if he can teach you right, and it's really easy with a little bit of Google foo to figure out who those dudes are and who they are not.
Well, I think that's one of the big issues is people have is sorting through the chaff, let's say. They want to do it, but I mean, there's so many. The problem with the internet, as much of a blessing as it is, where you can find almost anything you want, is you can find anything you don't want.
Everybody's an expert.
Yeah, and the online is full of experts who are contradictory.
Yeah,
right?
dude. So look for their results, right? If they don't have any reviews, that's a red flag. If they don't have a website, that's a red flag.
Yep.
If they don't have any accolades, right? Like if you're teaching competitive shooting, you should be able to present me a resume of your competitive shooting experience.
Yes.
Right. And that doesn't mean you need to be the best, right? I've taken classes from dudes that are B class competitive shooters, but you know what? The class was on movement. It wasn't on, and so that I'm cool with that. But have you applied this in the arena that you are marketing to?
Yep.
That's a big one. If you're just going around with a bunch of tattoos and a big giant beard and telling people how you're going to teach them how to, kill bad guys more better, and because I mean, dude, there's some wild stuff out there. I just got back from California a couple weeks back, and they had a very well known personality out there doing a training course. The gentleman took his pistol out, and this was hour one, right? Took his pistol out and threw it on the ground, apparently in an attempt to show that guns are tools and you shouldn't care to get them scratched or something. I don't know why you couldn't just say that, but threw his gun on the ground, stomped it in the gravel and twisted. And when he twisted, he discharged around in between two students and into one of them's Toyota Tacoma that was behind him. And look, man, at that moment, well, I'm not going to tell you what I would have done, but you should not be there any longer.
Yeah,
you know,
it's time to
use
leave.
your common sense, man. Use your common sense. If somebody's out there being stupid with guns, I'm gone. If somebody starts a class and doesn't give me a med brief, I'm gone. If somebody starts a class and doesn't tell me, you know, what do we do if someone gets shot, I'm gone.
I really want to guess who that was, but I can't do that here.
Yeah.
I have a good idea. I'm pretty sure I know who it is.
Yeah.
But no, you're right, man. Guys, do your research. Travis said the same thing about, you know, learning for competition or whatever. Do your research. Look for reviews. Look for other. If you know someone who's been to the class, ask what they think.
And think, man.
Yeah.
Don't throw your brain in the trash just because you ain't never done this before,
Yeah.
right? Like, think. If what these people are perpetuating, if what they're pushing doesn't make sense, then don't give them your money. You know what I mean? Like, but if it makes sense to you and it jives with you and they resonate with you in whatever way, go try them out.
Yeah.
Go try them out because there's value added in knowing what bad training looks like.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
oh, for sure.
Like now I've gone, and I'm not saying go out and try to find a sucky class. I'm just saying if you do this enough, you will end up in a sucky class. When you do, now you know, right? Now you can start to kind of make some assumptions based off of how that gentleman did everything he did, and you'll start to kind of see some trends pop up where, you know, the very high level dudes never do or say this. The dudes that are either dangerous or terrible at what they do or whatever, they often say or do this.
Yeah.
You know, you can start to draw some parallels there.
Kind of like you could be like a Houdini, just go search for really sucky trainers and expose them.
Yeah, yeah. There was a guy that did that one time on YouTube, and he got sued out of his position.
I bet. Well, don't do that.
Yeah.
Unless you have a lot of money. If you're willing to take the lawsuits, then by all means.
Yeah.
So I know this might seem a little bit. It seemed like a little bit of a sidestep, but I think a lot of people think about this when they're thinking about getting into classes, and it's, can they get efficient and trustworthy kit on a budget? Because a lot of guys really focus on kit before they get into this mindset of really focusing on the skills, right? And I think there's some justification for that. They don't want a holster that's going to, you know, suck, or a mag carrier that's going to drop their mag. You know, can they get good kit on a budget, or do they need to splurge a little bit on this?
Well, I think anytime we start talking about money and values of things, it becomes extremely subjective.
Yeah.
What I deem as a good value, you may think is an egregious overpricing of something. You know, whatever. Like I'm going to pick up a Nighthawk 2011 today at the gun shop that I had built, based on some things that I wanted. That, you know, but you know, understand. Nighthawk 2011, right? Super expensive gun, but my level of participation in this arena dictates that it's got a high value that comes along with it, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you're the dude that shoots once a year, carries a gun at church and going to the store and nothing else, then maybe that isn't necessarily the same level of value that you would have, you know. But there definitely are some commonalities that we can say, okay, yes, you need to do this. So number one, you absolutely need a good belt. That's probably the number one failure point where people struggle. They'll buy all this stuff, and they never take into account, if I buy the best tires and the best wheels and the best body and the best interior, and I put it on a rusted frame, we still got a problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, you take a Jeep you just bought and you slap, you know, $3,000 worth of tires and wheels on something that needs the ball joints rebuilt, you're gonna have a problem.
Oh yeah.
You know, so the foundation of the carry system is the belt.
Yep.
I need a good belt, right? So Aries Gear makes really awesome. The Aegis that they make is my go-to concealed everyday belt, which also can be used as a range belt, right? I can put an outside waistband holster
I need
on
to
it
get
or
a new
whatever.
one because I lost weight, so I'm
There
gonna
you
write
go.
that down. Aries.
Yeah, Aries Aegis. The beauty of them is they don't have like holes in them like normal conventional belts do. It's just it's a locking cam pin mechanism, and so you can literally adjust them by the millimeter and let them out, or, you know, based on, am I carrying inside the waistband with some tight pants today? Might need to let it out a little, you know, or whatever. Really neat, really awesome belts. I've been wearing the same one for 5 years, man, and it looks like the day I bought it. I mean, other than it's a little dirty.
So that leather, or is that?
No, it's I'll be honest, I don't even really know what to call it. It's definitely a textile of some sort.
Yeah.
But it's I'll show it to you when we get done. It's really neat.
I've been wearing T-Rexes. This is their real thick nylon like belt. That's but man, I lost weight, and now they're perpetually out of stock.
So one of the things I always hated about the I guess the sales community of the firearms industry was that there was so much stuff that was geared towards this tactical idea.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, I need a normal looking belt. Like I don't want something that's got like. And I'm not saying if you rock a Cobra Buckle EDC belt, you're wrong. I'm just saying, like, do you know why the Cobra Buckle was made? Like, it was made to suspend people from things and, like, be able to put 3,000 pounds of weight on it. And all. You're like, what do you need that for your SIG in your pants for? Like, that's just big, bulky, and cumbersome. And I just want something more streamlined, something that's comfortable, practical, that I can tuck a shirt into if I have to. And it looks normal.
That's where I would want a different belt, if I was tucking my shirt in.
And there's that. As far as holsters goes, man, golly, this is a big one. So no fabric holsters allowed, number one. If it is made out of fabric, throw it in the trash or sell it at an Army Navy surplus store. It's gonna cause you some grief. Some of that grief may be worse than others, right? Almost every time I've heard of somebody shooting themselves, either drawing or reholstering, it's been due to a fabric or a leather holster where material got where it shouldn't have got, that kind of thing. It's a no-go. So good quality Kydex, man. If you're a concealed dude, Tenacore is my go-to for my holsters. Filster is also a fantastic option. JM Custom Kydex. There's tier 1 concealed. There's a lot of good out there, but there's a lot of bad out there too.
Yeah.
I really do believe that Filster and Tenacore are the top of the game. Now, understand, we're talking about $110, $120 concealment rig at this point, right? So there we go. Is that valuable enough to you where that price equates to, it's worth it, or maybe not,
Well, I think even someone who's not going to go buy 27 guns, I think if you're going to have one gun that you trusted your life on, make sure you get one solid holster that you can trust that gun in. I think that value definitely translates there. I think get one solid, it's one investment right there. Hopefully you don't break it.
Yeah.
I doubt you're going to break those filters.
I've never broken a good holster like that, man.
Yeah.
Also, when you get that holster, listen up, follow the instructions. Okay, there are instructions that come with them that tell you about what you should do to put them together and set them up. You need to do that. You are not a holster maker and you are not a holster expert. Therefore, you need to do what the guys that are tell you to do. Many, many times seen holsters come out of pants because belt loops fell off, right? Guns come out of holsters because retention mechanisms fell off, right? Because we didn't follow the instructions.
Wow.
That's a big one. So there's that. For outside the waistband stuff, man, RDR Gear is my go-to for Safariland stuff. He's a Safariland wizard. That is a level 1 or 2 or 3 retention holster, whichever you prefer. And man, he can make almost any gun fit. Almost any gun fit a Safariland holster. He's fantastic at that. I dig what he does with those. So for outside the waistband range use, most of the time I'm going to be using a Safariland just because I move a lot, right? I run, I sprint, and all this cool guy stuff, and
dynamic.
I've absolutely seen guns fall out of holsters.
Yeah.
It actually happens almost every class where I'll sprint you, and if you've never actually put all your stuff on and sprinted at a full run, you'll find a little yard sale happening behind you when you turn around.
Yeah.
So there's that. Mag carriers, same. Most people that offer really good Kydex holsters offer really good Kydex pouches. I typically use, I think it's Safariland 773 or 774, I think, for my pistol mags and whatnot. Another great one, I forgot to mention, Veil Solutions. Chris Woomer over at Veil Solutions is making outstanding stuff. His mag pouches are my favorite for rifle mags. And he can put, any attachment method you want on there.
Yeah.
And then I always like to, I like to, that doesn't mean I need to, but I like to have a little dump pouch somewhere that I can stick on me so that I can keep, markers and tape and
Yeah,
timers
yeah.
and cell phone and dip cans and water
Yeah.
bottles and whatever.
And see, I'm a stupid glutton for punishment. So when I went to his class, I was the only person not using a belt rig. And I was wearing my old plate carrier, which was very crappy and falling apart. And I was sucking middle of June. Boy, I was suffering. Yeah. And when I go to his next class, next time I go to I guess it'll be a 2-day next time, I'm going to wear the plate carrier again because I don't learn lessons and I'm stupid. But I like the idea of having lots of, the dump pouch is a much simpler way than wearing a plate carrier to have extra room for stuff. But I'm going to ask you 2 questions.
Yeah.
One might lead into a rabbit hole, which I hope it doesn't in a good way. I hope you don't, take this in the wrong way. But the second question will roll into what's hidden behind you over there. So first question is, are there any weapon systems that you see people having consistent issues? Not the occasional, okay, it happened, but like consistent issues through your classes once they're implemented into areas of dynamic shooting with stress, a dirty environment, that kind of thing.
Yeah, user-modified Glock pistols.
That's where I was going.
Yeah, user-modified.
Knew it was going to happen.
I can put a cold air intake on my little Toyota truck. I feel like I have the ability to do that. However, I do not know at that point how to test and make sure I did it properly. Mm-hmm. I don't know what to look for to know it's not done properly. I don't know a ton of things that I should be knowing to be messing with an engine of a car that I want to be reliable enough to take somewhere.
Yep.
Same kind of thing applies to guns, man. A long, long time ago, I was in the plumbing business for 15 years, right? And I remember a long time ago we bought our first house, me and my wife, and we were going to have it painted. And the painter came in and he painted it up. And I, unfortunately, and we learned, I didn't ask a price beforehand.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'll paint it. I'll paint it. It's no big deal. And dude, I started painting. It was just terrible. I had paint all over everything.
Yep.
It's just a nightmare. And my dad came over and he was like, why are you not working? And I was like, well, because I'm trying to save some money and paint, And he said, son, you can make more money plumbing and pay the painter than you can save the money and try to do something yourself. He said, let the painter paint the house. You do what your job is, right?
Yeah.
Let the mechanic work on the car. You do what your job is. And I'm very, very adamant. Let the gunsmith do the gunsmithing, man, because there's so much that you don't know. And yeah, putting an AR together, it ain't the hardest thing in the world until something goes wrong.
Yep.
And now I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And that's where people ruin very expensive things.
Yeah. And I'm a gunsmith, and I've been working on my own vehicles my entire life. And I'm telling you right now, 3/4 of my truck out there, that if anything happened to it, it's going to a mechanic. Mm-hmm. I'm not messing with it, man.
Same thing with ARs, dude. ARs, as far as on the rifle side of the house, user modified rifles.
Yeah.
Home built stuff. Number one failure.
Yeah. I can see that. Now, do you still, you said, user modified Glocks. Do you see the same issues out of user modified SIGs? Just curious.
Not typically, no. But that being said, I got to be fair. I see way more Glock pistols than anything else.
For sure.
So, it's not really fair to say that this one is easier than that one, because I don't even necessarily believe that. SIG pistols are pretty intricate. Once you jerk that fire control unit out, it's kind of wild.
Yeah, and I'm not a fan of either, so it's not like I want to defend either. I just was curious. I saw the SIGs really boom, in 2020, so I was just curious.
It's amazing to me how many people will come to class and they will attempt something they've never tried before. Very similar to how we were talking about a fella at a competition the other night that had multiple issues, right? He decided to go to a competition with a system that he had never vetted. Like, that's what happens at class. Guys will, they'll order stuff online that'll get there the day before the class. They'll try to throw it all together real quick, and they've paid this hard-earned money to come out there, and all they do is just struggle the whole time. Instead of taking the gun that maybe the perceived performance level of the gun you had may be less than the thing that you were waiting on to show up at the mailbox, but we know it works.
Yeah, and you get your hands on it before and utilized it.
And understand, you're not coming to a competition where you're going to be, you're striving to be the best one out there. That's not the point of it. The point of it is to gain the information to go home and apply it on your own.
Yeah.
That's number one.
Yeah, I took his class with a 90% stock AR that I was trying to kill. It was a DPMS. I don't know if I told you that while I was there. But I got it in a trade a long time ago, and I want this thing to die so I could just rebuild it from the ground up, and it won't die. It was one of the few ARs that didn't go down in that class. And then I took my carry gun, my CZ P10C, just threw it in a holster, and I was like, let's hope it runs, and it ran just fine. No, it's complete bone stock.
Yep.
So that's good to know, guys. Take care of your stuff. If you're gonna have things done to them, make sure someone professional who can really make sure it's working properly does it before you go and you're gonna bet your life on it. So what do you use when you're teaching or taking classes, whether it's a rifle or a handgun?
So I dabble in a couple different platforms here and there. I'm probably going to start messing with this 2011 a little bit coming up, just to kind of get a feel of it. Those are becoming pretty popular again. Staccato's, taking over STI, and they're putting out guns all over the place, and they seem to be really awesome guns. And I'm a big believer in having experience in what you're teaching.
Yeah.
So I need to mess with one of those for a while. Same thing with CZs. I've been messing with CZ Shadow 2 and PO1 and SPO1 lately, double single guns, because I've just never messed with a double single gun, right? And I want to know about the minutia of what about that first trigger pull, right? How do I approach that double action pull? I got some ideas, but let me go and see if I can get a little bit more experience on this thing and give you a deeper answer,
Yeah.
So CZs, I'm a SIG 320 fan. I love the 320X series. I think that the SIG 320 Legion X5, right? SIG P320 Legion X5.
Yep,
it's a lot. Yeah. I think that is the easiest to shoot sub $1,000 gun out of the box that is in existence. It's got everything. You don't need to do anything to it. Like, it's got great sights.
Yeah.
It's got a very respectable trigger. It's a really heavy, easy to shoot gun. It's something that you can snatch out of the box and absolutely go compete with tonight.
Yeah.
No modification required. Now, that being said, stick my own foot in my mouth. Mine is heavily modified. But that is what it is.
As we do.
So SIG. I'm a SIG 320 guy. I used to ran a Glock for a long time, and then just kind of got bored with it because that's what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
And then messing with the CZs now and the 2011s now. As far as the rifle side of the house, started out my first ever rifle class was I had a Spikes Tactical lower receiver that I had built, having no clue what I was doing, and I bought a Daniel Defense upper receiver to put on it, and by the grace of God, he showed me mercy, and it actually worked. And it worked for a while, and then finally got rid of that. And I shoot for Hodge Defense now, so I'm running all Hodge rifles for almost everything I do. Night vision centric classes where we do night vision stuff. I got a SIG MCX in 300 blackout that I use just because I dig being super duper quiet at night. I think it's pretty cool, and I love that platform. I think that platform's fantastic for what it is. Another great out of the box rifle, SIG MCX.
Mm-hmm.
They have jumped in price dramatically,
substantially. Are they not making them right at this moment?
I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't even know. I just know that, like, when I bought mine, I bought it for like $1,300, and now they're like $3,000.
And Scars are the same thing.
Yeah. That's another great rifle platform that I think people. They undercut it immediately because it doesn't look like what they've always used. And everybody always go to reciprocate and charge, and it's like, man, so what? Like, your pistol has a reciprocating slide. Did you know that?
I'll give them credit. It's 2021. There is now that it's not like make a civilian version without the reciprocating charging handle, and I'd be more invested in
it. But the thing about the Scar is, like, we can say that, but until you've actually, like, I'm guilty, man. I used to say that too, but then I got one and I realized, okay, not once, not ever has this reciprocating charging handle caused me a problem.
Yeah.
Like, it's never done anything that has caused me a problem. That's not to say that it's not going to cause anybody a problem, no matter what. But it's just, I think it's a little over-touted as a problem.
It's not the main thing.
I think the Scars shoot fantastic. I think they're super accurate. They will run forever and ever. They're extremely robust. Adjustable gas block system. You can set your gas jets to whatever you want just by putting a different set screw in there with a different size hole in it. That's really cool. User adjustable gas. Folding stocks. Everybody wants folding stocks these days. MCX and Scar have that. But
my biggest issue with the Scar, if I had to take it down to the bare bones and compare what I take at MCX versus let's just say a Scar L or 16, whatever you guys want to call it, I would immediately say the MCX, only because I think the Scars have been overpriced for a few years now, and they keep going up.
They're just cool guy guns, man.
Exactly. That's my big issue with it.
It's intrinsic value. It's not actual value.
Exactly. If they were comparable to the MCX in price, I'd be more interested. But my issue is I'm not paying good God, SCAR 17 prices.
Yeah.
No, you'll never catch me with one.
You know what the downfall of the MCX is, and it is a great downfall. It's the rail, man. For people that are going to
Monolithic rail.
Well, it's that crazy thing. It's not so it's monolithic to a point, and then you got that piece that slides into place. And the problem is if you're going to be a guy that's using night vision and you're going to stick a laser aiming module on the end of that rail, you now have a laser aiming module that will lose zero anytime you touch that rail. Basically, it is not solid at all. I've been actually working with Daniel Wilson at D. Wilson Manufacturing over in, I think he's in Colorado. Sent it off to him and was like, here, man, I got this idea, right? Let's try this. And so we actually machined 2 aluminum blocks, tapped the receiver, put some bolts. We're trying to make that thing a little more solid, and it's still, I'm just not happy with it. Now, I do know from word has it that there is a next generation MCX in the making.
Which they don't say which generation they're on currently. They make changes and never tell you what generation it is.
Yeah, so we'll call this Gen 3, I guess.
Yeah, it probably is.
But it has solved all of those problems, and all of that feedback to create that weapon, I truly believe, has come from the users in the unit. They actually used the 300 blackout system, and they were like, their rail, how convenient. Their rail is not the rail you can get.
Nope.
Right? It's a totally different rail, and you actually can't buy it. It's a totally different uppers because the way it interfaces and all is different. And so anyway, but for the most part, man, I'm running standard conventional AR-15.
Cool. But Hodges are really good.
Hodge guns, yeah. I truly believe Hodge is the pinnacle of conventional AR-15 performance.
Awesome.
I don't think you can do it better than that.
Awesome. Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Just a side note, guys, if you see Gen 3 MCXs actually come out at some point in time, you better keep your eyes out for Gen 2s if you want them. They're going to be on the market. Just an FYI. That's awesome, man. Is there... I feel like we didn't touch on a few... Well, no, we did. For those who aren't watching on the YouTube channel, which is the majority of you, which once again, appreciate you. It's okay.
Yep.
You won't see this bag that's sitting in front of me that is a medical bag. And I guess we could call that a blowout kit, correct?
Yeah. So
yes.
I call it the shooter kit. So it's a med kit design that I got together with North American Rescue, and I was always I couldn't find exactly what I was looking for in the medical world. Caveat to all this, guys, if you think that the shooting side of the house is important, then the medical side of the house should be at least twice as important, because you have a far more likely chance of saving someone's life or being able to than you do the other way around. So carry medical stuff, man.
And get medical training.
It would absolutely suck to watch, and I'll stab you in the heart real quick. It would absolutely suck to watch a 9-year-old child bleed to death on the side of the interstate after an accident because you didn't have the training or the ability to do anything about it. That would suck, especially if it was your 9-year-old. Yeah. So I will not allow that to happen. Therefore, I carry and know how to use medical stuff. So in this kit is everything that any given person should need to be able to stop someone from bleeding, right? That was my main idea with all of this, because most people, learning how to stop somebody from bleeding is really easy. So it requires like a 1-hour crash course, basically. Anything further than that, if we're like going into the body to work on things, we need a lot more, right? And not the average man. In this, you've got the standard cat tourniquet from North American. You've got 2 what we call compressed gauze. You might call it Z gauze. It's just folded gauze for wound packing. We've got a 6-inch wide trauma wrap to wrap that wound packing, keep pressure on that. We've got 2 high-fin chest seals, because those are, if you got a hole in your box, we need to plug that hole, right? So we take this chest seal, super easy, super self-explanatory. Peel the sticky off and stick it on, right? Yep. It's super easy. Got 2 of those for entries and exits. Got shears already in the bag, cutting clothes out of the way, cutting things out of the way, cutting shoes off, whatever. Yep. One of the things that is not in most kits is a Mylar blanket, a survival blanket, right? So people that lose a lot of blood tend to not be able to regulate their temperature very well, and the body will go into shock. So we got to keep those folks warm. Throw that on there. We got gloves are in the kit. We got permanent marker, a little tiny permanent marker in there to write times on tourniquets and things, and comes with an instruction card. So even if someone who doesn't know what they're doing picks this thing up, as long as they follow the instructions, we should be okay. So put all that in a nice little vacuum sealed pack, and that way you can buy. What I do is I've got 2 vehicles, and I've got my wife's, and I've got 2 trucks, and then I've got a little side-by-side ATV, and I keep one of these in every vehicle, and that way I don't have to say, okay, do I have my shears in here today, or did I leave my tourniquet over here, so on and so forth. You just take it, and as long as it stays sealed, man, everything will stay there. You don't have to buy all these individual components and then buy a bag to put them in and all this kind of stuff. So the cool thing about it is the retail value on all this is somewhere around $80, and I think we're going to be selling them for around $60.
And where are they going to be selling it at?
On the website. So we're currently building a new web store that's going to contain T-shirts, things that I believe in, little products that I really like, people that have supported me over the years. Going to have some little doodads here and there, might throw some stickers in there, T-shirts, med kits, and then we're also getting ready to announce, I guess we'll go ahead and announce it. We're going to be doing some purchasable online training videos. So I understand that ammo's an issue, right? I understand that money is an issue. I understand travel is an issue. There's a lot of reasons that people don't want to come to class or can't come to class.
Yeah.
And then there's also, like we talked about, those guys that are a little intimidated by coming to class, right? They don't necessarily want to go stand in front of 15 people and show everybody how terrible they are.
Yeah.
Cool. So what if you could buy Intro to Pistol Fundamentals that covers grip, sights, trigger, recoil mitigation, all in a 1-hour video packet for, $20 or something like that, right? I think there's some value there in that. While I'm not on the range with you to be able to personally critique you, it's basically like being at that segment of my class without actually being at the class.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be tons of stuff, man. Especially for new gun owners, I got 2 videos that we did. One's called "So You Bought a Pistol," and one's called "So You Bought a Rifle," because that's one of the biggest inquiries I get is, "Hey, man, I bought this rifle and I don't know what to do. Like, what should I put on it? What am I doing?" And then the next tier from that is going to be the intro to rifle shooting fundamental. How do I zero this thing? What does natural point of aim mean? How do I know if I'm controlling recoil properly? How do I test that with some data that I can have a quantifiable result on that I can go to later and see, am I gaining result? I teach how to do all that stuff in a couple different video series. And then also, you're going to have the opportunity to subscribe to the email list. There's going to be tiered email things here eventually, and so we hadn't truly decided what we're going to do with it, but like tier 1 will be something like you get a little video from me once a month or something like that, just talking about whatever I'm doing that month, right? So I just recently got done built a 6-arc 18-inch precision gun to go compete at the arena match down in Georgia. Did really well with it, and a lot of people are asking questions about it, so it'd be like a little video on that, a little video on rifle setup, belt setup, whatever. And tier 2 will be it's going to be a subscription fee of this much, but you get the video, and we're going to get together in like some kind of Google chat room once a month, hang out, pour some bourbon, smoke some cigars, talk about guns, whatever.
Maybe a Discord channel.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. And then like level 3 is going to be all of that, plus you get my personal cell phone number to call me anytime you got a question about anything.
Well, that's dangerous.
So because I want to, like I say, man, people's performance is absolutely my passion, and I want to get this info to them however I can. And I understand that going to a 2-day course, man, with a 700 round count, like it just ain't for everybody right now.
Especially right now.
What I mean?
Yeah.
So how can I do this otherwise?
I like it. No, it's awesome. It's diversifying, and it's giving people a cheaper option to try to benefit themselves and better themselves on a budget. I really like it.
Well, and I think a lot of people, like we talked about, that have never been to a training class, don't know what to expect. Like $450 for a 2-day course is intimidating to those that have never done it, right? But I think there's far more people out there that would feel way more comfortable gambling $20.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let me just see what this video is here that he's talking about. Let me try him out, and then if you like what you see, man, if I cooked you some good steak, come on back.
Makes sense. Makes sense for sure.
So
let's say someone hears this in the let's say 6 months from now. They find this podcast and say, "Oh, this is interesting." Where can they find you to look at your announcements and what's going on with your life.
Yeah. So the main ones, of course, are going to be social media. JBS Training Group on Instagram, JBS Training Group on Facebook, Mark Smith on Facebook.
Okay.
And then, the website is www.jbstraininggroup.com, and you can go there to see all the upcoming courses. We got a calendar going on. I'm all over the place, and if you want to host a course in your area, just reach out to me. There's a contact form on there. You can email me, jbstraininggroup@gmail.com. I'll let you know what all that entails. It's really easy, man. All you got to do is give me some stand sticks, tape, and staples and things like that. Find me a range, and be kind of like my liaison in my stead. And for your efforts, you'll get a free spot in the class. So that's the way we do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's really neat, and it takes me all over the place. So I will absolutely come anywhere you want me to go that is within the United States parameters, right? So going to Alaska in July, I'll go anywhere, man. And it's just, I think another big one that people don't know about that should is the primary and secondary forums. So I've been pretty involved with primary and secondary for a while now, and I think that what Matt is doing over there is probably the best in the world at what he's attempting to do, which is get all of the subject matter experts across the board, from the tactics side of the house to the gear side of the house to gunsmith and everybody, the best of the best, and let's put them all in one place.
Yep.
That way people have a pot they can run to and ask questions, right? Or gain actual information that's vetted, that is known good info. And so primary and secondary on Facebook, primary and secondary YouTube channel, also JBS Training Group YouTube channel.
Yep.
I promise I'll do better at getting more stuff on there. It's a lot to be out of town every weekend and film videos and be dad and all that stuff.
All I've got going on in there is the podcast on my channel, and I want to do, I've got all these things planned out for actual YouTube videos and not just podcasts.
One day,
right? It's just one of those things, man.
Yeah. We got a lot going on. 2021 is pretty full already. I've got December open for a course if you want to host a course, but other than that, we're pushing on into 2022. Law enforcement dudes, any law enforcement dudes that hear this, reach out to your training sergeant and have him shoot me an email. I'll work you up a quote for a contract price. Those are always a lot easier than open enrollment. And get out there and show you what we got, man.
Guys, if he's in your area and there's an open spot in his class, make sure you do it. I've been to the class. I've been to one of his classes. I'm already really convinced. And you can tell he knows what he's talking about. You can tell he knows what he's teaching. There are immediate results. I walked away from his class with 2 really important points that were driven home for me that I really, really liked. $450 for a 2-day course, you said? That is not a bad price. I know plenty of instructors that are charging double that for a 1-day course. So you're getting what you pay for. Guys, if you like the podcast, check us out on YouTube at TBR Gunworks, right? Very simple. Instagram, TBR Gunworks. TBRgunworks.com. It's trying to make it very nice and compact and easy for you guys to find. If you listen on the podcast sites, please leave a review. And that's the best way to help out podcasts, is leave a positive review. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe. I mean, that's not most of you. Like literally 99% of you are on the podcast sites, but it's awesome. I really appreciate the feedback, guys. We're growing. I think we're going to hit our target goal by the end of May, like we said. So I really Mark, thank you so much for coming, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you having me.
I think you covered a lot. I think we might have motivated some people to get out there and do some training.
Cool.
Awesome. Y'all be safe. Take care. Remember, every gun law is an infringement.